Thank you, Chairman. And Chair Yellen, I want to begin by thanking you for your extraordinary public service. Your leadership at the Federal Reserve has played a key role in helping the economy recover from the financial crisis. The nation owes you a debt of gratitude for your careful stewardship of monetary policy. Last year, when you appeared before this committee, I asked you about how we can get the economy delivering for more Americans. Unfortunately, the economic situation is probably even more polarized today. Economic growth, jobs, startups, all are increasingly concentrated by zip code. And while we've made real progress since the recession, some parts of the country are still being left behind. Too many rural areas, too many tribal areas are struggling to get back to where they were a decade ago before the recession. I represent a state with an unemployment rate well above where it was when the recession began back in December of 2007. And that sure doesn't seem to me like we have fully recovered from this recession. I know that the Federal Open Market Committee has not yet made a decision on an interest rate hike next month, but if analysts are correct, the Fed is expected to raise interest rates, which would be the third rate hike this year. With many communities across New Mexico and the country still struggling, I'm concerned that we may be putting the brakes on too soon. Wage growth remains weak, while health care, college, and child care are less affordable for working families. And this reality should inform both monetary and fiscal policy. We need targeted fiscal actions to grow the economy and to help these areas that have been left behind. But that's not what some of my colleagues are delivering in the current tax proposals. The Republican tax bill moving through the Senate adds $13 million to the ranks of the uninsured to pay for tax breaks for the wealthy and special interests. To hand out tax breaks to the wealthiest among us, Republicans are not only taking health insurance away from millions of Americans, but they are wasting an opportunity to invest in our people and our communities. There's a lot that we could be doing instead. Congress should be focusing on important goals such as growing the economy and driving up wages for working families. For the cost of the current tax proposals, we could literally provide all children with early learning opportunities, plus offer students free tuition at community colleges and public universities, ensure broadband access for every American, rebuild our infrastructure, and take bold actions to fight the opioid epidemic. But we're not going to be able to make those kinds of investments if Republicans insist on adding another $1.5 trillion to the debt for tax giveaways to the wealthy. Chair Yellen, as you conclude your term, it's an appropriate time to highlight the vital role an independent Fed plays in the economy. This Congress, as was the case in the last Congress, is considering several Republican proposals to limit the Fed's ability to independently conduct monetary policy. These bills seek to change the way the Fed carries out monetary policy, even going so far as requiring the central bank to swap its current mortgage-backed securities for Treasury bills. There are also proposals to limit the central bank's flexibility in responding to financial emergencies. This idea is especially hard to understand from my point of view in light of the critical role that the Fed played in responding to the financial crisis and preventing another Great Depression. I'm concerned about these attempts to undermine the Federal Reserve's independence, and I suspect you may be as well. I'd like to close with a point about the challenges of crafting monetary policy in today's political environment. Fiscal and monetary policies work best when they're aligned, but it's difficult to know with any certainty where Republicans in Congress are ultimately heading with fiscal policy. For years, they have pledged to reduce the deficit, but their tax package explodes the deficit. The disconnect between words and actions is also visible on infrastructure. President Trump has talked about the need to invest in infrastructure, but as we wait for a real infrastructure proposal for the administration, Republicans are proposing to eliminate key infrastructure funding sources, like private activity bonds. They said they would deliver middle-class tax cuts, but in 2027, nearly 24 million Americans earning less than $100,000 a year would face a tax increase under the current House Republican tax plan. And in the Senate bill, half of all households would see a tax increase when it is fully implemented. The chasm between words and policy must make the already challenging job of conducting monetary policy that much more difficult. Chair Yellen, again, thank you for your service to our country, and I look forward to hearing your testimony today.